Hi, my name is Matthew Mattingly. Welcome to Central Kentucky Outdoors. We're on Marion County Sportsman's Lake today. It's early April. Water temperature is 58 degrees. Water's kind of stained. You know, just a typical spring day. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Stick with us. A lot of times when I haven't been on a lake for a while, I'll start with what we call a search bait. That's a lot of your crankbaits, spinner baits, swim jigs, and things like that. Things that'll get a reaction strike. You know, you can constantly chuck and wind it out. It's just kind of a fast presentation to kind of find some fish, and once you locate them, you can slow down and fish them hard. Now, a lot of times the wind is good for you too because it pushes the bait fish around, gets them active. So maybe we got a little bit of that going on today. I'm going to approach today just like I do any practice day. Like I said, we'll start off with some reaction baits. Once we find some fish or find some structure, we'll slow down, like some trees, we'll slow it down. Start fishing some soft plastics and some jigs and things like that till we kind of figure out what kind of water column they're in or what kind of stage they're in. Just by the water temperature being 58, I'm assuming they're going to be up in that pre-spawn mode, which is where they're starting to move up into the shallows to get a little warm, feed a little bit before they have to actually spawn. The spawn will really kick off here in a couple weeks when that water temperature hits 60, 62, 64. Right around in there is when they really start moving up. And the big fish start moving up early, so we may even see one on the bed. You never know. Be prepared for everything when you're out here. Right now I'm throwing a little square bill crankbait, and the water depth's only like 6 and 7 foot deep right here. So that square bill is going about 4 or 5 foot deep, and I'm bouncing off the rocks and the trees and things like that. Just like I said, trying to get a reaction strike. And the colors I start off with, like I said, are a lot of shad patterns. You don't want to go too crazy to start off with. Now, if the water's really muddy or if it's really clear, then you have to adjust. Dams are always a good spot to fish. You've always got rocks and things like that, and sometimes they'll have water intakes, and the fish really key on things like that too. I know over at Fagan Branch, the smallmouth get on the dam really well, so I don't think there's any smallmouth here in Sportsman, but there's always some fish on these rocks like this, chunk rock. And as we go around the lake, there will be different pockets of like slick spots where the wind's not blowing as bad. The trees will actually stop the wind and things like that. So that's when I said you can really slow down and fish it hard. Plus it gives you a break from the trolling motor too. One bit of advice for structure is you see that little arm of pipe coming off of there. I'll hit it from 2 or 3 different angles and 2 or 3 different casts. I'll cast to one side of it, and then as I get to the other, I'll bump it across and things like that. A lot of times when you're using reaction baits, if you bump it against something, the fish will react to it a lot better and they'll actually eat it. Like I said, I'll run it across there. You got to be careful when you come across not to get hung up. Just take it easy. These square bills are made to go over structure. Stumps, rocks, trees, pipes, doesn't matter. Got about 2 foot of water clarity here. I can see this shad colored square bill about 2 or 3 foot down, so it's not too awful bad. And this is one of those lakes too that's pretty wide open. You can almost walk about 3/4 of the way around here. Granted, some of these woods are kind of tough, but as a kid, we used to come out here and walk around it all the time before we had boats and stuff. So it's one of those, you know, user-friendly lakes too. It's not like Green River. It's a gargantuous size. This is kind of a smaller, oversized pond, so a lot easier to fish. The wind will actually stir the shad up, but what I'm trying to do, like I said, this crankbait, when it bumps off something, the fish will almost get scared, and that's how they react to it. So a lot of times when they're not actually feeding and stuff, when they're not active, you can make them active by using a crankbait or a spinner bait or something that'll get their attention and bump off. And like I said, just react to it. That's basically all it is. Somebody feel a mosquito land on you, you're gonna swat it. Same concept. You fish these slower baits, you can feel all the trees and things like that down in there. Plus I can see them on my graph too. Got a flipping setup here. It's a Texas rig, and a Texas rig is so simple that a kid can use it. All it is a bullet sinker weight tied with a hook there, and you just take the first part of your lure, thread it up on there, take it all the way up to the hook's eye, and then you just take the point of the hook and bury it in the plastic. It's weedless, simple, hop it, pop it along the bottom, pretty easy. Like I said, even a kid can use it. Right now I'm doing what they call flipping and pitching, and that's just where I have the bait in one hand and I use the rod to propel it like a lever out to where I want it to go. You could practice that in your yard with a coffee cup. That's what I did. It's a really good technique. It's really quiet too. If you go behind other anglers that are flopping and popping it down on the water, flipping and pitching is a really key thing because it puts it in there. It's real subtle. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. There's a little stick right there that I'm pitching to. I know it kind of looks like I'm pitching away from the trees, but there's a stick sticking up there. With flipping and pitching, you want to use a little bit heavier line. Like I'm using 20-pound fluorocarbon right now. If you use light line, you're just going to snap it on the hook set, or you're going to snap it off into a tree, and you really don't want that. So, especially when you have a big fish on. I've lost a few big fish using 12 and 15-pound line flipping and pitching. So, bump it up to 17, 20, 25. A lot of guys use braid. I just like fluorocarbon because it's clear. When you flip and pitch, you want a little bit longer rod. I'm using a 7.6 right now. Anything over a 7-foot rod is good because the longer the rod is, the more leverage you have on the bait, the more further you can get it out there, and the easier it is to get the fish out of the cover. Anything under 7 foot is just really hard to use. So I would suggest anything over 7 foot. That's something people always ask me too, is how long I stay on one single piece of cover. It's just till I lose confidence in the spot. That's all it is till I lose confidence. Oh man, missed a little one there. He took off with it right on the bank. But once I lose confidence in a spot, I'll move on to the next one. That's pretty much how it goes. I don't have any set time. I don't say, I'm gonna give myself 10 minutes to fish this one tree. I'm not gonna give myself any more time to fish, this or that. It's just it's whatever I feel about it. I go with my gut instinct, and that's, if you listen to any pros, they'll pretty much tell you that too. Runs a lot off instinct.